It's hard to predict the icons of tomorrow. Some of the most sought after watches right now, like the Rolex Daytona, weren't particularly well loved when they first came out, but some of them were, like the Omega Seamaster Diver. The icons of right now are a lot of mid-century designs, like the Speedmaster, the Rolex Submariner, the 50 Fathoms. But today I want to speculate what modern watches could be the classics of tomorrow. I haven't ordered these in any particular way, maybe just by how excited by the theory I've come up with. How excited I am. And I should say, these are just theories. None of us knows what the future holds, none of us have a crystal ball, least of all watch YouTubers. These would just be my predictions. First, looking at one of my favorite brands, Tudor, and I have two models that I could see being future classics. The P01 and the North Flag. Now, both of these models I see being future classics because of their rarity, unpopularity at the time, but also being standout models for the brand. They almost feel like the Tudor version of the BMW M1. So the Black Bay P01 was revealed at Baselworld 2019, and it was divisive from the start. Based on a military prototype watch found at Tudor headquarters that never made it into production. It's a big watch at 42mm, it's weird looking, there's just something so odd about it, and I can see it being a model that wasn't loved in its time. There will be so few in circulation, the story of it is weird. I could very much see this being a sought after Tudor. And the second watch, the North Flag. This watch already feels a bit legendary. Released in 2015, this was Tudor's first watch featuring a manufacturer caliber movement, and it has a distinctly not Tudor look to it. An arrow hand rather than a snowflake, baton hour markers, and a big 12 and 6 rather than the round indices. A yellow power reserve indicator at 9 o'clock, which might be the weirdest thing about this. This doesn't look like a Tudor. The North Flag was discontinued in 2021, so a short 6-year run, not many of these floating about, and an important piece of modern Tudor history. Omega is hard to predict because they already have a full arsenal of icons. The Speedmaster, the Seamaster Diver, the Railmaster, the Constellation. But I have two predictions for Omega, and both of these couldn't be any further apart from each other. They couldn't be any different. So the Tokyo 2020 Speedmasters and the Ploprof could be future icons. Starting with the Speedies, but quite particularly the Tokyo 2020 Speedmasters. I think these will be ones for the history books, especially in 20, 30, 40 years time when people look back romantically at the pandemic, like we look back romantically at the 70s, 80s, 90s. These Speedmasters mark the Olympics that almost didn't happen. I know the pandemic is still really fresh for us, and a lot of us are still living in the ramifications from the pandemic, but humans have this tendency to look back at things romantically, and I could see these being future classics one day. And next, the Ploprof. Now, this isn't a modern design. The Seamaster 600 Ploprof was first introduced in 1971, but there's just something so ridiculous about it that I could see being sought after. The shark-proof bracelet, the giant garish size, 1,200 meters of water resistance. It just takes everything too far and is hilarious, and I love it. Now, Cartier has a similar problem to Omega in that it already has its icons. The Tank and the Santos, and the Panthère is having a moment of popularity. I find them a brand that's harder to predict. Like I could see the Ballon Bleu becoming a future icon and the Panthère. But if I was to predict something a little bit more bold, and a watch that I don't think receives the love it deserves, I'd put my money on the Pasha. The Pasha already has the makings of an icon with an ambiguous heritage, with the story being that the Pasha of Marrakesh commissioned Louis Cartier to make him a sports watch to fit his sporty, active lifestyle. And this is what Cartier presented him. I think, once again, this one has the weird factor, the weird crown cover, the way it plays with shapes, so the square on the dial and the roundness of the case. It's just a weird watch, and I think the models with the removable dial grid will be particularly sought after. Like Omega and Cartier, Rolex already has its icons, and those aren't going anywhere. But there is one model that doesn't get the love it deserves outside of the crazy enthusiast community, and that is the Rolex Explorer 2. I could see the black dial especially being collectible. So this was first introduced in 1971 and has always been an odd duck of the Rolex catalog. For modern Rolex, this is one of the easier models to get at retail, and the price is pretty good for how much this watch does. Not that £8,500 is cheap, but in the Rolex catalog, it is cheaper than a 41mm stainless steel Datejust with the fluted bezel and Jubilee bracelet, and offers so much more functionality. I see these being underappreciated models of their time. And for a quick, more obvious Rolex prediction, the Oyster Perpetuals with the colorful dials that had the shortest run. The coral Oyster Perpetual, the yellow, the 41mm turquoise. Just such a weird moment of Rolex, an exceptionally short runtime. It has collector's item written all over it. Okay, I don't talk about Zenith enough on the channel for how much I like them. To me, the future classic of the brand is the Chronomaster Sport El Primero, and I would say the 31mm variation, but it's also available in a 41. I think this is going to be one of those models where people say, why did people wait for a Daytona when this exists? And they would be absolutely right. Zenith already has that association with Rolex and their pre-ceramic Daytona, incredible heritage, good-looking watches, criminally overlooked. Although, if I could have one complaint about Zenith, the price points can be a little bit punchy, but I think they are also a brand where it's okay to ask if there's a little bit of wiggle room in that price. Bulgari's place in watchmaking is already so interesting. The first watch offering from Bulgari was in 1941 with the Serpenty Snake watch, a watch that combines jewelry and watchmaking. When I think of Bulgari, I think of 1. The Octo Finissimo, and 2. The Serpenty. These two will both forever be icons of the brand, but when I think of future classics, I think of the Bulgari Aluminium or the Bulgari Aluminum. I honestly don't know why more people aren't talking about these or looking into them. They have an in-house mechanical movement, 100 meters of water resistance, a 40mm aluminium and titanium case, with a rubber bracelet retailing for £2,980 or about $3,500 USD. I can't tell if I'm from another planet. These seem like an obvious choice to me, and I don't know why more people aren't excited about these. Maybe it's because the design leans a little bit more modern rather than 1950s dive watch, but I think these are dang cool. I might just even buy one of these. It might be time. Okay, I'll keep this one short and sweet because I already know nobody wants to hear it, but I think mint condition and really good condition MoonSwatches are already highly collectible and will only become more collectible. I know we're sick of hearing about them at this point, but they were just such a watch of the moment. They captured something really special when they first came out, and I know it's been ruined by oversaturation, scarcity, and, well, frankly, swatch greed. But like it or not, they were a moment, and once again attached to the pandemic, they will be classics. Now with Hermes and future classics, it really depends on if you see them fully breaking into the watch space and being real players in it, which I do. They are already pushing the envelope, hiring some real watchmaking talent, and they've already established their own unique design language. They're one of those brands where insufferable watch geeks will say, they're not real watchmakers, they're not a real maison, they're just a fashion brand. But they're making manufactured calibers as an independent brand. They aren't owned by LVMH anymore, borrowing Bulgari movements or Zenith movements. This is an independent brand, really investing in watchmaking, and I believe that investment is going to pay off. I am calm. I'm just so chill. Now that I've got that out of the system, the H08 has to be their future classic, modern design language, and the watch that put Hermes on the map as a serious watchmaker. Okay, we're jumping way up in price here, but I'm picking up my Journe Elegante in June or July, which is coming up really soon, and I'm so excited about Journe, and they're on the mind and I just want to talk about them. FP Journe is interesting because Francois-Paul Journe is still alive and still a part of the watchmaking process. As a brand, it's gone from a few handmade watches from Francois himself to a pretty large independent, making 700 to 900 watches per year. I think anything made from Francois Paul's lifetime and with his involvement will be highly collectible, but especially his earlier pieces with the brass movements. They're already highly collectible, highly sought after. My all-time grail is an Octaloon Platinum brass movement. If everything just goes really well. If everyone could just like, comment, subscribe, and watch all my adverts, that would be... But these are only going to become more and more dear. For something a little bit more down to earth, the Octa Divines, so 36mm, produced between 2003 and 2021. I can't tell if these will just be more rare than classics, but I would give my right arm for one. Something a bit more realistic from the current catalog, the Octa Sport. I think these could have the Rolex Daytona effect, a model that was relatively unloved, but becomes massively popular as time goes on and sought after. But anyways, guys, those are just some of the watches I could see becoming future classics. There are a few notable brands that I've missed in here because they're not in my wheelhouse as much, like Grand Seiko, or brands I just didn't really have any strong hunches about, like Patek Philippe. But I'd love to know in those comments down below, what watches do you see being future classics one day? Did I miss anything really big? I want to hear about it. Can't wait to read your comments. Don't forget to do all those things to feed the YouTube algorithm gods. And now let's thank the gorgeous, fabulous, wonderful Pope tier patrons. Right. Hello, guys. I hope you're having a very happy Sunday. You've had a really gorgeous weekend. This video might have looked a little bit different because I'm trying out this grid thing. I'm trying to have fun with lighting a little bit more. I'm just getting bored of how my videos look and the formula I'm using. So I'm going to be trying new things. But really quickly, thank you to the fabulous, gorgeous, wonderful Pope tier patrons. They keep the lights on here at Gringa HQ. All tier patrons, you're amazing. You're fabulous. You're doing great things. But big special shout out to the Pope tier patrons. Thank you guys. I hope you keep enjoying my content, enjoying my channel. Bye guys.